Hey everybody, welcome back to Ruination Range. So those of you with a keen eye may notice that I'm not actually at the range today, and that is because my break is over, so I'm back at college. No reason to fret though, not being at the range is no excuse for a lack of ruination. Wait, this probably isn't too smart to do indoors. So in my previous two videos, I used flaming arrows to ignite a couple of exploding balloons. So I wanted to talk about those arrows. What did I use, why it works best, and how you can recreate it. To make my flaming arrows, all I did was just put some steel wool on the end of an arrow, zip tie it on there, and you're good to go. Simple. Now you may be thinking, hold on, steel wool is a metal. How is it possible that it burns? Well, steel wool consists of mostly iron, and given time, iron reacts with oxygen to form iron oxide. This reaction is exothermic, meaning it produces heat, but under normal conditions, the reaction is slow and the amount of heat produced is insignificant. However, if we introduce an external source of heat to the reaction, we can speed it up, which in turn produces more and more heat, keeping the reaction going. So why don't larger pieces of iron with a larger surface area exposed to more oxygen burn when they're heated? Well, simply because the larger pieces don't have the surface area to mass ratio that steel wool has. The oxidizing iron in this nut doesn't heat the rest of the iron up enough to sustain combustion. So why use steel wool for a flaming arrow? Why not use, say, an oil-soaked rag? Well, contrary to what you might think, even an oil-soaked rag will be blown out pretty easily on the end of an arrow traveling through the air really fast. Whereas steel wool burns more furiously with the increase in oxygen, making it a perfect choice to use. So how do you recreate this at home? Well, all you need is a normal arrow, steel wool, a zip tie, and an ignition source. And you probably want to use an arrow made out of aluminum because the steel wool does get really hot, so you don't want to melt through your arrows. For my other videos, I used some really coarse steel wool, and it was pretty difficult to get a sustainable flame. So make sure you get the finest grade you can get. Most places should have grade number 0000 extra fine, but if you can't find that, I'll have a link to it in the description. Also, make sure you're buying pure steel wool. You can't use SOS pads or anything else with cleaner or soap on them. You're going to want to zip tie the wool towards the back and fluff up the front a little bit so air can get in there and make the flame bigger. And you also want to make sure you pull the zip tie as tight as it will go, because otherwise it can slide up the arrow and end up burning your fletching, and you don't want that. Once you zip tie it on there, I recommend cutting off the excess from the zip tie, otherwise it's creating unnecessary drag and it's a little bit harder to hit your target. From here, you're ready to ignite it and send it into whatever target you want to burn. Everywhere online always says to ignite it using a 9-volt battery by short-circuiting the terminals, but you can just as easily ignite it with matches, a lighter, a torch, or even a flint and steel. And finally, a word of caution to you. You want to be really careful when you're doing this because steel wool burns at an incredibly high temperature. It's nearly 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. So whatever you're shooting at, you want to make sure you're not going to accidentally light anything else on fire that you don't want to burn. And also keep in mind when you ignite this, it does shoot off some sparks, so you want to make sure that you're not in the way of that and getting burnt yourself. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you decide to try this at home, go ahead and let me know in the comments how it works for you. And remember, I'm not liable if you burn your house down.